Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Thomas Kippy Dugan's reading room, where we are reading Trip Across the Pond, Personal Vietnam Experience. The author, Thomas Dugan, that's me. And we are on going to proceed here with Chapter 18. We just did a real good deal on the Philippines. I hope you enjoyed that. And now we're going to, the transformation was necessary. It was not too far from the airstrip to the web talk, so walking seemed like a good idea. Gathering a change of clothes at the web talk, I walked to the outdoor shower and showered, then went over to the medical station. After telling one of the specialty fours my story, he issued me some penicillin, just in case. From the medical station, I walked over to battalion headquarters and reported for work. Freddie spoke to me for a few moments, then he had me drive him to a few places. Not much had happened during the time I was away. Everything was moving along as usual, and there had been no action out in the jungle. Freddie quizzed me about my stay in the Philippines as I drove us back to battalion headquarters. Only a few hours had lapsed, and it was time to leave for the day. Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer had not been in my first day back, and I never saw him the next day either. At battalion headquarters, Freddie came over to where I was standing. He reported that the company commander of headquarters had made a new ruling of some kind when I was away on R&R. So being in violation of this new ruling that I knew nothing about, Freddie said the company commander was going to give me an Article 15. That was upsetting to not only me, it was upsetting to many other people also. One sergeant was telling the first lieutenant that he thought it was not fair. The sergeant said, with an expression of distaste, "He went to work as soon as he got back and knew nothing about what went on while he was away." The first lieutenant acknowledged the sergeant and walked away. I never heard another word about it from that time on, and never in my entire 2 years of the Army had I received an Article 15. Some people are born an ass, and the Army had its share. Over the next few days, there were thoughts about the past 7.5 months, the many things I had experienced. Some of my fellow comrades, even Mark, was bothered about me having such a good life. Something was telling me to do the one thing that had not been done so far. That would be going out into the jungle as an infantryman. Still, I was not crazy about the idea. It would be something that would require serious thought. Hell, there were less than 120 days to go over there. I was getting close to going home. Of course, that would be normal for me to do something illogical. For some strange reason unknown to me at the time, much of everything done by me was backward from what society taught, and for the most part did. Even so, there was the thoughts that a change was perhaps in order. To make the adventure in Vietnam complete, I would have to do the one thing I had never really done. One day Freddie told me that we were going to the Snoopy pad and pick up an officer. He told me that the officer would be the company commander for our new company, Delta. Delta would be the 4th company consisting of 126 men, most of them new replacements. The officer's name was Captain Culbreath, and he was a Green Beret. Freddie said there was not much for the Green Berets to do in Vietnam, and some of them were being put into service with the Army. After waiting only a few minutes at the Snoopy pad, a Snoopy landed with Captain Culbreath in it. He stepped out and walked over to where Freddie stood, waving his hand. Captain Culbreath was about the same height as me, had light bluish-green eyes, trim build, and wore a winning smile. There was an instant likeness, and I knew right there that Captain Culbreath and I were going to be working together. The three of us went to battalion headquarters, then after a short wait, I drove Freddie and Captain Culbreath to where Delta Company was being built. Already men were busy building web talks, company headquarters, a mess hall, and officers' quarters. Dropping Captain Culbreath off, Freddie and I headed back to battalion headquarters. End of the day, and Walker and I went to the beer hall for one drink. The mind was full of thoughts about working with Captain Culbreath. The only way to work with him, I thought, was being a sidekick and driving for him. There was never a thought of going into the jungle on operations, or was there? The next day, I spoke to Freddie. Freddie, what would you think if I told you that I wanted to go work with Captain Culbreath? You don't want to drive for Major anymore? It's not that. I have this feeling, and perhaps a change is in order. Well, it would be difficult to get away from the Major. We would have to go about it in a round way, and it would take some time. You know, the battalion commander has plans for you, so it will be no easy task. I liked Freddie. He was always full of shit. However, he was no dummy either. He knew how to play along most of the time. It seemed that he did not have enough ambition to do any more than what he had already done with his life. Perhaps somewhere in his life the proverbial light turned on in his head, as it really does for most everyone else. Freddie suggested that I go and speak with Captain Culbreath first and see what he has to say. The next morning I drove to Delta Company, got out of the Jeep, and walked over to where Captain Culbreath was helping to put a roof on a web talk. I hear you want to come down and work with us, Captain Culbreath said with a warm smile. I don't like looking up at people when I speak to them, I said. Walking over to the side of the web talk, using a ladder, I climbed to the roof, across from where Captain Culbreath was kneeling. Yes, sir. I was thinking that I wanted to work with you, I continued. Well, I need a duty driver, sidekick, and radio telephone operator. I think I can do that, sir, I reported without any hesitation. I also began to wonder whether Freddie had already spoken to Captain Culbreath. Captain Culbreath and I spoke briefly, then I left. Driving the Jeep back to battalion headquarters, thoughts raced through the mind. What the hell was I doing? Fuck! Driving a Jeep, being a sidekick was okay, though being a radio telephone operator? Shit! Putting a radio on my back and getting everything thrown at me, even the kitchen sink, was not what I had in mind. Was I turning the corner or what? An item that was clear as mud to me was, whatever Captain Culbreath needed, I wanted to do. After filling Freddie in and the decision made, if that is what it was, we went over a method of a break from Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer to Captain Culbreath. Freddie would start out by having me go down to Delta Company to help periodically, and he would work on Major Erin Pulsfer. Being around Captain Culbreath and driving for him was a real charge for me. He was definitely unique, it seemed, and the soldiers in Delta Company liked him very much. He became one with everybody in the company and did many things with them, even played football. Also, there was excitement of a new company and learning another aspect of Vietnam firsthand. There lingered thoughts of danger of being out in the jungle for lengthy periods. That did not bother me, as I told this self. I had just as much balls as anyone else, and perhaps a bit more. The day came when I was assigned to Delta Company. We would be leaving at 4:30 in the morning with Alpha Bravo and Charlie Company on a 7-mile forced march. The operation would last 5 days, and there was not much time. One day I was driving for Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer, and now I was a driver, sidekick, senior radio telephone operator for Captain Culbreath with less than 120 days in Vietnam. As an Australian would say, nothing wrong with me, eh? Toward the evening, sitting in my new Jeep in front of Delta Company, I entertained thoughts kidding to the self. That is why I created the move to Delta Company. It was not because I wanted to work with Captain Culbreath. It was because I wanted to have a new Jeep. Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer walked up to my Jeep, looked back at his old driver sitting in his Jeep, and said, "That's okay, Dugan, I'll walk back. I mean Woodruff." We talked briefly, and it was not hard to tell that Major Erin Pulsfer did not like losing me. He seemed not to understand, and maybe he never would. However, I liked Major Erin Pulsfer, and I knew that I would hold the highest respect for him as long as I was alive. Battalion Major Erin Pulsfer was without a doubt the most intelligent man that I had the opportunity to meet. Perhaps, like Major Erin Pulsfer, I too had to keep moving so as I could keep learning, experiencing. Dad, Mom, a few more lines to let you know that I'm still answering and getting short. Would you bet I've only have 99 days left at the minimum? I have today just broke into the 2-digit number. I'll have to drink on that. There's a lot happening here. The election today for the president of Vietnam. Although I don't feel that I will have any bearing or commitment or even on Charlie. Being that they're having the elections today, Victor Charlie is doing a lot of terrorizing and killing a lot of people to save them out of voting. The American troops have to stay away from villages until the elections is over. Remember that big mountain in some of those pictures you sent me, the big one all by itself. Well, anyways, I'm right now on a 13-day operation right at the bottom of that over big mountain. It's not too bad here right now. Anyway, I received all of the pictures and will send them back after a while. Mom said something about sending a box, but haven't received it as of yet. I'm kind of tired of Vietnam, you might say. I'm getting just plain worn out. The other day, I pulled out my first gray hair. It looked almost white and was quite long. Received a letter from Mom the other day. We're good to hear from her. You say I only have 800 in the bank. I guess I had better get some money in that bank. You got the word all right on the paint job about me first making it powered, and that's all, or primed, and that's all, about the income tax. You never answered my question about me getting my income tax back. I gave them $31 that I owed them. I didn't think I owed them any more money. Another question, do you think that in November that you could send in to Sacramento, California and get my license plates? Well, I'll close for now. By the way, on the right, the movie film, I can only be down on a 8mm movie projector. Otherwise, another kind of projector will damage the film. And yesterday I bought a 8mm movie projector. So when you send the film back, I can see how well I done with my movie camera. And then I'm sending the movie projector home so it won't get broken while I'm over here. We'll close right soon. Tell everybody hi. PA, 99 days left. Getting short. Laughing Loads, Tom. There we are, folks. We got through that letter. The next chapter is Forced March 7 Miles. So we look forward to more and more people coming on and listening to a very, very good book, Trip Across the Pond. Thanks, folks.